Don't eat that. The beggar girl saw the betrayal. Mafia boss changed her life forever. The city lights twinkled like stars beneath the restaurant's terrace, casting a golden glow across Alex Volkov's sharp features. He adjusted his perfectly tailored suit jacket, surveying his domain from the prestigious height of Le Ciel, the most exclusive rooftop restaurant in the city. The gentle evening breeze carried the scent of jasmine from the carefully maintained garden boxes that lined the outdoor seating area. A waiter approached his table, moving with the practiced grace of someone who served the elite. "Your dinner, Mr. Volkov," he announced, placing an artfully arranged plate before Alex. The dish was a masterpiece of culinary precision. Tender Wagyu beef, perfectly seared, accompanied by delicate roasted vegetables and a rich red wine reduction. Alex had just picked up his fork when movement caught his eye. A small figure darted between the tables, evading the maitre d's attempts to intercept her. Her clothes were worn but clean, her dark hair pulled back in a messy braid. She couldn't have been more than 8 years old. Before his security detail could react, she was at his table, her wide eyes intense and urgent. "Don't eat that," she whispered, her voice carrying a gravity that seemed out of place in one so young. "It's poisoned." Alex's laugh was cold and dismissive. Here he was, king of his domain, and this street urchin dared to interrupt his dinner with such nonsense? "And I suppose you know this how, little girl?" he asked, his tone dripping with condescension. "Before you continue listening, please let me know where in the world are you watching from today. Now, back to the story." The girl, Lily, stood her ground, even as his security guards moved to flank her. "Please," she insisted, her small hands clenching into fists at her sides. "You have to believe me." "I don't have to do anything," Alex replied, deliberately cutting into his steak. "Except enjoy my dinner in peace." He waved his hand, signaling his men to remove her. "Sir, we apologize for the disruption," the maitre d' said, hurrying over. "This won't happen again." Alex watched as they escorted the girl away, her resistance futile against the adults surrounding her. There was something in her eyes, though. Not fear, but determination. It was almost admirable, if it wasn't so annoying. He turned his attention back to his meal, taking a bite of the perfectly cooked meat. The flavors bloomed on his tongue, rich, complex, and something else. Something that made his throat tighten ever so slightly. The first wave of dizziness hit him like a physical blow. Alex blinked, trying to clear his suddenly blurring vision. His fingers, usually so steady, trembled as he reached for his water glass. "Sir?" One of his guards stepped forward, noticing something was wrong. "Are you all right?" Alex tried to stand, but his legs wouldn't cooperate. The world tilted sideways, and he barely caught himself on the edge of the table, sending his wine glass crashing to the floor. The sound seems to come from very far away. The restaurant erupted into chaos. The chef emerged from the kitchen, pale-faced and protesting his innocence. Waitstaff scattered like startled birds. His security team closed ranks around him, but they could do nothing against the poison already coursing through his system. Through the commotion, a small figure slipped past his disoriented guards. It was the girl again, but this time she moved with purpose. Her small hands were steady as she pulled a vial from a hidden pocket in her worn jacket. "Hold still," she commanded, and before anyone could stop her, she had plunged a needle into his arm, injecting him with whatever was in the vial. Alex stared at her, his mind struggling to process what was happening. This child, this slip of a girl who looked like she belonged on a street corner begging for coins, had just saved his life. Her eyes met his, and in them he saw none of the fear he was accustomed to seeing in others. Instead, there was something else. Something that spoke of secrets and knowledge far beyond her years. The antidote worked quickly, pulling Alex back from the brink. His vision cleared, though a dull throb still pulsed behind his eyes. Around them, the restaurant had emptied, leaving only his security team and the small figure who stood watching him with unsettling composure. "Who are you?" His voice came out rougher than intended, but the girl didn't flinch. "Lily Ivankov," she answered simply, tucking the empty vial back into her pocket. The name hit Alex like a physical blow. Ivankov. A name he hadn't heard in years, not since the death of Viktor Ivankov, one of the most powerful men in the underground world. A man whose empire had seemingly crumbled overnight, leaving a power vacuum that Alex had quickly filled. "Impossible," he growled, though, looking at her now, he could see the resemblance. Those same calculating eyes that had once stared him down across negotiation tables. Victor's daughter died with him. "That's what my mother wanted everyone to believe." Lily's voice carried a weight beyond her years. "She's been busy since Father's death, building alliances, making plans." She paused, her small fingers tracing patterns on the tablecloth. "Planning your downfall." Alex's security team shifted uncomfortably, hands hovering near their weapons. The girl's calm demeanor was unnerving. No child should be this composed while discussing murder attempts. "Your mother?" Alex leaned forward, ignoring the lingering dizziness. "Elena Ivankov orchestrated this?" Lily nodded, her expression unchanged. "She's been planning it for months. The chef isn't loyal to you anymore, hasn't been for weeks. Mother made sure of that." Alex's mind raced through implications. Elena Ivankov, who'd played the grieving widow so convincingly, had been manipulating events from the shadows all this time. But something didn't add up. "If your mother wants me dead, why save me?" He studied her face for any sign of deception. "Why betray her plans?" "Because she's wrong," Lily answered, meeting his gaze steadily. "Her vendetta will destroy everything my father built. She's letting emotion cloud her judgment." Her words were carefully chosen, as if she'd rehearsed this moment countless times. "The Empire needs stability, not chaos." Alex felt a chill that had nothing to do with the poison. This child spoke of empires and stability with the understanding of a seasoned player. What kind of life had she lived, hidden away while her mother plotted revenge? "You understand what you're doing?" he asked, his voice low and dangerous. "Betraying your own mother?" "I understand everything," Lily replied, and for the first time, Alex saw a flicker of something in her eyes. Not fear, but a deep, resigned knowledge of consequences. "I've made my choice." Alex sat back, studying her. She stood perfectly still under his scrutiny, neither cowering nor showing any sign of discomfort. This wasn't a scared child seeking protection. This was a calculated move in a game he hadn't even known was being played. "Dmitri," he called to his head of security, decision made. "Escort Miss Ivankov to the car." Two guards moved to flank Lily, but she didn't acknowledge them. Her eyes remained fixed on Alex, carrying the same quiet certainty she'd shown when warning him about the poison. She turned without being prompted and walked toward the exit, her small figure straight and composed between the towering guards. Alex watched her go, his mind already spinning with possibilities and threats. The girl was either his most valuable asset or his deadliest liability, and he couldn't tell which was more dangerous, her mother's schemes or Lily's own agenda. The limousine's leather seats creaked as Alex settled back, watching Lily. She sat across from him, her small frame dwarfed by the luxury interior, but her posture remained perfect, practiced, controlled. The city lights flashed across her face as they drove, creating shadows that made her look older than her years. "Start talking," Alex commanded, his voice carrying the weight of someone used to being obeyed. "Everything." Lily's hands were folded neatly in her lap, unnaturally still for a child. "After Father died, Mother changed. The grief, it twisted something in her. She became obsessed with power, with taking back what she thought was stolen from us." "Your father's empire wasn't stolen," Alex cut in sharply. "He lost it fair and square." "I know." Lily's response was immediate, matter of fact. "That's why I'm here. Mother doesn't see it that way. She's been making moves for months, buying loyalty, spreading whispers, weakening your position from the inside." Alex's jaw tightened. He'd noticed small changes, subtle shifts in allegiance, unexplained difficulties with certain operations. But he'd attributed it to normal business fluctuations, not a coordinated attack. "The poison was just the beginning," Lily continued, her voice steady. "She has people in your organization. The chef wasn't the only one." She paused, studying his reaction. "Your accountant, Marcus? He's been doctoring your books for weeks. The shipment scheduled for next Tuesday? It's a trap." Alex's hand clenched into a fist. Marcus had been with him for years, one of his most trusted employees. "And how do you know all this?" "Mother thinks I'm just a child. She speaks freely around me, never considering that I might understand. Her plans, her contacts. I hear everything." A hint of bitterness crept into her voice. "She's taught me more about survival than she realizes." The car turned onto a quieter street, the engine's purr filling the silence between them. Alex studied her, looking for signs of deception, but found only that unnerving certainty in her eyes. "Why warn me?" he asked finally. "Why not let her succeed?" "Because she's wrong," Lily repeated her earlier words. "Her vendetta will destroy everything. The stability Father built, the peace he maintained. It all falls apart if she wins. And I won't let that happen." Alex laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Stay out of this, little girl. This isn't a game for children." "I stopped being a child the day Father died," Lily replied, her voice sharp enough to make Alex's eyebrows rise. "I've been watching, learning, planning. I know things about your organization that would terrify you, and I'm trying to help." The car slowed as they approached Alex's mansion, the iron gates swinging open automatically. Security lights illuminated the manicured grounds, casting long shadows across the driveway. As they pulled to a stop, Alex turned to his security team. "Take her to the East Wing guest room. Post guards." "No." Lily's interruption was quiet but firm. "I'm not your prisoner, Mr. Volkov, and if you treat me like one, you'll lose the only advantage you have against what's coming." Alex stared at her, caught between amusement and anger at her audacity. No one interrupted him. Ever. "I need to speak with you privately," she continued, meeting his gaze without flinching. "About what happens next. About how we stop her." There was something in her voice, not desperation or fear, but a quiet certainty that made Alex pause. He'd built his empire on instinct, on knowing when to take calculated risks. Everything about this situation screamed danger, and yet... "Fine," he found himself saying, surprising even himself. "We'll talk." In the dim light of Alex's study, shadows danced across leather-bound books and dark wood paneling. Lily perched on the edge of an oversized armchair, her feet barely touching the Persian rug beneath. Across from her, Alex lounged in his chair with deceptive casualness, but his eyes remained sharp, predatory. "Your security is compromised," Lily began without preamble. "Mother has been placing her people strategically for months. The poisoning attempt today? That was just a test." Alex's fingers drummed against the arm of his chair. "You expect me to believe that your mother, whom no one has heard from in years, has infiltrated my organization?" "She never left." Lily's voice was steady. "She just became invisible. That's how she works, from the shadows. While everyone thought she was grieving, she was building a network. The cleaning staff in your downtown offices? Her people. The new security guard at your warehouse on 5th? Hers too." Alex leaned forward, his expression darkening. "If what you're saying is true, why haven't they moved against me before now?" "Because Mother is patient. She wants more than just your death. She wants your empire to crumble from within." "The poison today?" Lily's hands tightened in her lap. "It wasn't meant to kill you. It was meant to make you look weak, to show your enemies that you're vulnerable." The study fell silent, except for the tick of an antique clock. Alex stood, walking to the window that overlooked his estate's grounds. Security lights illuminated the manicured lawns, creating pools of light in the darkness. "You're telling me your mother orchestrated an elaborate plot, placed spies throughout my organization, all to what? Take revenge?" "Not revenge." Lily shook her head. "Power. She believes she's entitled to it. That Father's death robbed her of her rightful place. The timing of this attack isn't random either. The meeting with the Chinese delegation next week? She knows about it. She's planning to expose irregularities in your accounts, the ones your compromised accountant has been creating." Alex's jaw clenched. He'd been planning that meeting for months, laying groundwork for an expansion into new territories. If what Lily said was true. "And you?" He turned back to face her. "What do you get out of warning me?" "I told you, I want to stop her." Lily met his gaze unflinchingly. "What she's doing isn't just wrong, it's dangerous. The stability between the families exists for a reason. If she succeeds in destroying you, others will see weakness. There will be war." Alex studied her, searching for signs of deception. But all he saw was that same unnerving certainty, the wisdom that seemed so out of place in a child's eyes. "Even if I believe you," he said slowly, "why should I trust you? For all I know, this could be another part of her plan." "Because I saved your life today," Lily replied simply. "I could have let you die. Instead, I exposed myself, put myself at risk. Mother will know I betrayed her by now." The truth of that statement hung heavy in the air. Alex returned to his chair, his movements measured, controlled. "You'll stay here," he decided finally, "under my protection. But don't mistake this for trust. One wrong move—" "I understand," Lily nodded. "But if this arrangement is going to work, you need to let me help. I know her plans, her people. You need my knowledge." Their eyes locked across the space between them. In that moment, something shifted. Not trust exactly, but an understanding. They needed each other, whether they liked it or not. "Agreed," Alex said finally. "But remember, this is temporary. Once your mother is dealt with—" "Of course." Lily's voice was cool, professional. "Temporary." The study had become their war room over the past week. Maps and documents littered the massive oak desk, and empty coffee cups testified to their late-night strategy sessions. Lily sat cross-legged in what had become her chair, a leather-bound notebook balanced on her knee. Your security rotation is too predictable, she said, not looking up from her notes. Mother's people will have memorized the patterns by now. Alex's jaw tightened. My security team has years of experience. Experience doesn't matter if you're predictable. Lily's pen scratched across the paper. Change the schedule, randomly. Use different routes, mix up the teams. You think you know better than professionals who've protected me for years. Lily finally looked up, her eyes sharp. Those professionals didn't spot the poison in your food last week, did they? The reminder stung. Alex paced behind his desk, fighting the urge to dismiss her suggestions outright. But she'd proven herself useful these past 7 days, identifying 3 more potential security breaches and 2 staff members working for her mother. Fine, he conceded. I'll implement the changes. Anything else? The shipment coming in tomorrow night. Lily flipped through her notebook. Mother knows about it. She'll try to intercept it. Impossible. Only my inner circle knows about that shipment. Then someone in your inner circle talks in their sleep. Lily's tone was matter-of-fact. Change the route. Use the old marina instead of the docks. She won't expect that. Alex studied her, this child who spoke of betrayal and strategy with such casual certainty. She'd slipped into his world with disturbing ease, as if she'd been born for this life of shadows and secrets. How do you know all this? He demanded. I listen. I watch. People underestimate children. A hint of bitterness crept into her voice. They say things they shouldn't, thinking we don't understand. Before Alex could respond, gunfire shattered the evening quiet. Glass exploded inward as bullets tore through the study windows. Alex moved instinctively, diving toward Lily. She was already moving, rolling out of her chair and behind the heavy desk. Quick, smart, but not quick enough. A second burst of gunfire forced her to change direction, driving her toward the door. Alex saw the trap forming. Lily, down! She dropped instantly as the door burst open. 2 men in black tactical gear rushed in, weapons raised. Alex didn't hesitate. His first shot caught the leader in the throat, painting the doorframe red. The second man managed to get off a burst of fire before Alex's bullet found his heart. More footsteps thundered down the hallway. Alex grabbed Lily's arm, pulling her behind him as 3 more assailants appeared. Time seemed to slow. His gun sang 3 times. 3 bodies hit the floor. Silence fell, broken only by the smell of cordite and the soft patter of blood dripping onto hardwood floors. Alex turned to check on Lily, expecting to find her trembling or in shock. Instead, she stood calmly, studying the bodies with clinical detachment. Mother's men, she said quietly. I recognize the tattoo on his wrist. She pointed to one of the fallen assassins. She's getting impatient. Alex watched her, seeing something new in her steady gaze. She wasn't just smart or observant. She was a survivor, forged in the same fires that had shaped him. The violence hadn't frightened her, because violence was her native language. Are you all right? He asked, his voice rougher than intended. Yes, Lily met his eyes. Thank you for protecting me. In that moment, surrounded by death and broken glass, Alex saw her truly for the first time. Not as a child, not as a tool, but as someone who carried steel in her spine and ice in her veins. Someone dangerous. Someone like him. Alex watched Lily from across his office, her small frame bent over a stack of reports. She'd made herself at home in the past few days, commandeering a corner of his workspace, despite his repeated attempts to keep her at arm's length. Something about her presence both irritated and intrigued him. These shipping manifests don't match, she said without looking up. Someone's skimming from your supply chain. I told you to stay out of those documents. His voice carried a warning edge that would have sent his most hardened men scrambling. Lily just shrugged. And I ignored you, because I'm right. She stood, crossing the room with quiet confidence to lay the papers on his desk. Her finger traced a line of numbers, and despite himself, Alex leaned in to look. Their shoulders nearly touched, and he caught the faint scent of lavender from her hair. See? The numbers don't add up. Someone's stealing from you, and they're not even being clever about it. Alex's jaw clenched. She was right, of course. She was always right, and it drove him mad. This isn't your concern. Everything about your organization is my concern. Lily's eyes met his, challenging. Or did you forget that my mother wants you dead? The tension in the room shifted, became something electric. Alex stood abruptly, towering over her. I don't need a child telling me how to run my empire. No, she agreed, not backing down an inch. You need someone smart enough to see what you're missing. Their arguments had become a daily occurrence, each one more charged than the last. She pushed every button he had, questioned every decision, and, worst of all, she was usually correct. It was maddening. That evening, after another heated exchange about security protocols, Alex found himself walking the halls of his mansion. His feet carried him to the guest wing, where Lily's room lay behind a heavy oak door. Light spilled from the crack underneath, and he could hear her moving around inside. He shouldn't be here. He had no reason to check on her. And yet, the door was slightly ajar, offering a glimpse into her private space. Lily stood by the window, her silhouette outlined against the city lights beyond. She'd changed into sleep clothes, simple cotton pants and a t-shirt that made her look young and vulnerable in a way her usual daytime armor never did. She turned at his presence, unsurprised. Of course she'd heard him approach. She never let her guard down, not really. Come to tell me to mind my own business again? Her voice held its usual sharp edge, but something else lingered beneath. Exhaustion, perhaps. Or loneliness. Alex stepped into the room, drawn by that hint of vulnerability. In the soft lamplight, he could see the shadows under her eyes, the slight tremor in her hands that she tried so hard to hide. She was tired, he realized. Tired of fighting. Tired of being strong. Tired of carrying the weight of survival on her young shoulders. The realization hit him like a physical blow. For all her sharp words and keen intelligence, she was still just a girl trying to navigate a dangerous world. A girl who'd chosen to help him despite everything. Their eyes met across the room, and for once neither spoke. The air between them hummed with unspoken words, with questions neither dared to ask. Alex felt something shift in his chest, a crack in the ice he'd built around his heart. Without a word, he turned and left, closing the door quietly behind him. But he couldn't shake the image of her standing there, fierce and fragile all at once, or the strange pull he felt toward her, a pull that had nothing to do with strategy or survival. Alex drummed his fingers on the polished mahogany table, barely registering the voices of his captains as they discussed territory disputes. The afternoon sun filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of his office, casting long shadows across the room. But his attention kept drifting to the empty chair in the corner, Lily's usual spot. "Boss?" Victor, his second-in-command, cleared his throat. "About the situation in the docks." Alex blinked, forcing himself to focus. "Continue." But as Victor detailed the latest shipment issues, Alex's mind wandered again. He remembered how, just yesterday, Lily had spotted irregularities in their accounts that his most trusted advisors had missed. The way her eyes lit up when she solved the problem, the slight curve of her lips when she knew she was right. "Sir, do you want us to handle it the usual way?" another captain asked, his voice tight with tension. Alex straightened in his chair, aware that his distraction was becoming obvious. "No, we'll need a different approach." He paused, thinking of how Lily would analyze this. "The dock workers aren't the problem. Someone higher up is pulling strings." His men exchanged glances. This wasn't his usual style. He typically preferred swift, brutal solutions, but Lily's voice echoed in his head, reminding him that sometimes the obvious answer wasn't the right one. "Since when do we care about dock workers?" grumbled one of his older captains. "Since we started thinking instead of just reacting," Alex snapped, his voice carrying an edge that made the room go silent. The words were Lily's, spoken to him during one of their late-night strategy sessions. The meeting dragged on, but Alex's thoughts kept circling back to her. The way she challenged him, never backing down even when his temper flared. How she'd carved out a place for herself in his world with nothing but sharp wit and sheer determination. When the meeting finally ended, Alex remained in his office, watching the sunset paint the city skyline in shades of gold and purple. The door opened without a knock. Only one person dared to enter his space so boldly. "Your men looked worried when they left," Lily said, settling into her usual chair. "Did you finally tell them you're going soft?" Alex turned, finding her watching him with that familiar mix of amusement and calculation. "Careful," he warned, but there was no real heat in his voice. "Or what?" She raised an eyebrow. "You'll brood more intensely? You've been distracted all week. Even your security team noticed." "I don't brood," he muttered, but she just laughed. "Please, you've been walking around like a thundercloud." She stood, moving closer to his desk. "What's really bothering you, Alex?" The use of his first name, rare from her, made something shift in his chest. She stood before him now, fearless as always, her presence filling the room in a way that belied her small frame. "You," he said before he could stop himself. "You're what's bothering me." Instead of backing away, she stepped closer. "Am I? And here I thought I was making your life easier, saving you from poisoned dinners and bad business decisions." The teasing light in her eyes sparked something in him. He rose slowly, coming around the desk until they stood face to face. "You're impossible," he said softly. "You question everything, challenge every decision, push every boundary." "Someone has to." Her voice had grown quieter, but she didn't step back. "You need someone who isn't afraid to tell you the truth." The space between them seemed to crackle with tension. In the fading light, her eyes held a warmth he'd never noticed before. For once, her sharp edges seemed softer, more vulnerable. His hand moved of its own accord, almost touching her cheek before he caught himself. They stood there, suspended in that charged moment, neither willing to break the silence that had fallen between them. The city lights twinkled through the study windows as Alex poured 2 glasses of whiskey. Lily sat cross-legged on the leather couch, surrounded by stacks of paperwork. They'd been working for hours, the silence between them comfortable now rather than tense. "Here," he said, offering her a glass. She accepted it with a small nod, her fingers brushing his. "3 attacks on your warehouses in 2 weeks, she murmured, scanning the reports. "My mother's getting bolder." Alex settled into his armchair, watching her work. The lamp cast a warm glow over her face, highlighting the determined set of her jaw. "Your mother isn't the first to try taking what's mine." "No," Lily agreed, looking up. "But she might be the most dangerous." She's patient, calculating. She paused, then added softly, like you. Alex's grip tightened on his glass. I learned patience the hard way. The words came out before he could stop them, heavy with memory. Lily set down her papers, giving him her full attention. Something in her expression made him continue. I was 12 when my father was killed, he said, staring into his whiskey. Shot right in front of me. The rival family thought they could take over while I was too young to fight back. His laugh was harsh. They were wrong. What did you do? Lily's voice was quiet, free of judgment. I waited, learned, built my strength. Alex took a long drink. 3 years later, I had them all killed. Every last one. That's why you don't trust anyone, Lily observed. You learned too young that everyone's a potential threat. Alex studied her, surprised by her insight. And you? What did your mother teach you about trust? Lily's smile was bitter. That it's a weapon. She used to test me, set up elaborate scenarios to see if I could spot the lies. She traced the rim of her glass. By the time I was 10, I could tell when someone was trying to manipulate me, including her. That's why you came to warn me about the poison, Alex realized. You recognized her pattern. She always starts small, tests the waters. Lily's eyes met his. The poison wasn't meant to kill you. It was meant to make you paranoid, suspicious of your own people. She wanted you isolated. Alex leaned forward, intrigued by this glimpse into her mind. And now? Now she knows I interfered. She'll change tactics, try something more direct. Lily's voice hardened. She doesn't forgive betrayal. Neither do I, Alex said quietly. They worked late into the night, going through reports and security measures. Alex found himself watching her more than the documents, noticing how she chewed her lip when deep in thought, how her eyes lit up when she spotted a pattern. Around midnight, he left to take a call from his security team. When he returned, he found Lily at his desk, poring over classified Mafia documents she definitely shouldn't have access to. His first instinct was anger. No one touched his private files. But before he could speak, she looked up with that familiar, determined expression. Your distribution network has a weak point, she announced. Look at these shipping manifests. There's a pattern in the scheduling that anyone could exploit. Instead of reprimanding her, Alex moved closer, looking over her shoulder at the papers spread across his desk. She was right. There was a vulnerability he'd missed. How did you spot that? He asked, genuinely impressed. The same way I spot all weaknesses, she replied, not backing down from his proximity. I look for what people try hardest to hide. Their eyes met, and something shifted in the air between them. She hadn't just analyzed his business, she'd understood it, improved it. In that moment, Alex realized she was no longer just a useful ally. She was becoming essential. The respect he felt for her intelligence warred with his instinct to keep everyone at arm's length. But as she continued explaining her findings, her voice confident and sure, he found himself drawn in by more than just her strategic mind. Alex's phone buzzed at 3 in the morning. He was still in his study, reviewing the security improvements Lily had suggested. One glance at the message made his jaw clench. Bad news? Lily asked from her spot on the leather couch, not looking up from her papers. Victor's men were spotted near the docks. Alex tossed the phone onto his desk. Your mother's faction is planning something big. This got Lily's attention. She set down her work and straightened. Victor only moves when the plan is already in motion. What else did your source say? Nothing concrete, but there's chatter about a major shipment coming in." Alex ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in every movement. "If they hit that shipment, you'll lose credibility with your international partners," Lily finished. She stood up, pacing the room with quick, determined steps. "My mother's been waiting for an opportunity like this." Alex watched her move, noting how her mind was already working through possibilities. She'd proven herself invaluable over the past weeks, her insights saving him from several of her mother's schemes. "I have a way to find out exactly what they're planning," Lily said suddenly, stopping in front of his desk. The look in her eyes made him wary. "How?" "Send me in." Her voice was steady, confident. "Let me go back to my mother's compound." "Absolutely not." The words came out sharp, automatic. "Think about it, Alex. She's my mother. She'll want to believe I'm coming back to her side." Lily leaned forward, palms flat on his desk. "I can get the information you need." "It's too dangerous." He stood up, towering over her. "Your mother would kill you if she discovered you were working with me." "She won't. I know how to play her." Lily didn't back down from his intimidating stance. "I've been doing it my whole life." Alex moved around the desk, closing the distance between them. "You're asking me to send you straight into enemy territory." "I'm asking you to trust me." Her eyes met his, unflinching. "This is what I do, Alex. How do you think I survived all these years? I observe, I gather information, I stay 3 steps ahead." He studied her face, searching for any sign of doubt. There was none, just that quiet determination he'd come to respect and fear. "Walk me through the plan," he said finally. Lily nodded, all business. "I go back, claiming I've gathered valuable intelligence about your operations. She'll be suspicious at first, but she'll want to believe me. I'll feed her carefully selected information, enough truth to make the lies believable." "And if she tests you?" "She will, but I know her methods." Lily's smile was sharp. "I learned from the best, after all." Alex paced the room, considering the risks. "How long?" 3 days, maximum. Long enough to find out about the shipment, but not so long that she'll expect me to prove my loyalty in ways I can't fake." He turned to face her. "If anything goes wrong, it won't. If it does," he insisted, "you get out. Immediately. Don't try to salvage the mission." Something flickered in her eyes at his concern. "I'll have a burner phone. 1 message if I'm successful, 2 if I need extraction." Alex nodded slowly. He didn't like it, but she was right. This was their best chance at stopping whatever her mother had planned. In his office the next morning, Lily prepared for her mission. She changed into simpler clothes, the kind she used to wear. Her hair was pulled back severely, all traces of the comfort she'd found in his home erased. She turned to face him, and for a moment, neither spoke. The morning light caught her face, highlighting the strength there, the determination. But Alex saw something else too, a vulnerability she rarely showed. His instincts screamed to protect her, to lock her away where her mother couldn't reach her. But he knew better. This was who she was, a survivor, a strategist, his equal. Their eyes held, the tension between them building into something neither was ready to name. Alex paced his office, checking his phone for the 100th time. 3 days. Lily had been gone for 3 days, infiltrating her mother's compound, and every hour felt like torture. His men reported her successful entry. Her mother's guards had escorted her inside without incident. But since then, silence. He picked up the crystal tumbler from his desk, the amber liquid inside barely touched. The city lights sparkled beyond his office windows, but he couldn't appreciate their beauty tonight. His mind was fixed on Lily, wondering if she was safe, if her cover remained intact. "Boss," Victor, his head of security, appeared at the door. "Our surveillance picked up movement at her mother's compound. Multiple vehicles leaving." Alex's jaw clenched. "Any sign of her?" "Not yet, but there's been the increased activity all day." Setting down his glass, Alex moved to the wall of monitors displaying various security feeds. He studied each one, searching for any glimpse of her. The familiar weight of his gun pressed against his side, a constant reminder of the violence that defined their world. Hours crawled by. Alex reviewed reports, made calls, but his attention kept drifting to the burner phone sitting on his desk. One message for success, two for extraction. So far, nothing. Just before midnight, the phone buzzed. A single message. "Coming in hot. Clear the south entrance." Relief flooded through him, followed immediately by concern. He grabbed his coat, barking orders into his radio as he strode toward the elevator. "Clear the south entrance. All units on standby." The night air was crisp as Alex waited in the shadow of the building's service entrance. His security team melted into the darkness around him, weapons ready. A sleek black car appeared at the end of the alley, moving fast. The car barely stopped before Lily emerged, her movements quick but controlled. She wore the same severe outfit she'd left in, but now it was wrinkled, her hair slightly disheveled. Their eyes met across the distance, and something in his chest tightened. "Inside," he ordered, ushering her through the door. His hand found the small of her back, guiding her toward the private elevator. She didn't resist, which told him more than words could about her exhaustion. In his office, Lily immediately moved to the couch, pulling out a small notebook from her jacket. "The shipment is happening tomorrow night. They're bringing in weapons through—" "Stop!" Alex's voice cut through her report. He studied her face, noting the shadows under her eyes, the slight tremor in her hands. "What happened?" "Nothing I couldn't handle." She straightened, trying to project strength. "We need to focus on Lily." He moved closer, his voice dropping. "What happened?" She met his gaze defiantly, but he saw the crack in her armor. "She tested me, like we knew she would. Made me prove my loyalty." "How?" "It doesn't matter." She stood up, trying to step around him. "What matters is I got the information we need." Alex caught her arm, gentle but firm. "It matters to me." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning neither was ready to acknowledge. Lily's breath caught, her eyes widening slightly. "I had to watch," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "While they interrogated one of your men. They caught him surveilling the compound last week." Alex's grip tightened. "Did they make you participate?" "No. Just watch. She swallowed hard. "They wanted to see if I'd try to stop them." Anger surged through him, at her mother, at the situation, at himself for letting her go. "You shouldn't have been there. It was too risky." "I had to be there!" Lily yanked her arm free, fire replacing the vulnerability in her eyes. "This is what I do, Alex. I'm not some delicate flower that needs protection. I've survived in this world my entire life." "You think I don't know that?" He stepped closer, crowding her space. "I've seen what you can do. That's not the point." "Then what is the point?" "The point is He caught himself, jaw clenching. The air between them crackled with tension, with all the things they couldn't say. Lily tilted her chin up, challenging him. "You what, Alex?" The silence between them stretched taut as a wire. Alex's hands clenched at his sides, his dark eyes fixed on Lily's defiant face. The city lights through his office windows cast shadows across her features, highlighting the stubborn set of her jaw, the slight tremble of her lips. "You what, Alex?" she repeated, taking a step closer. "If you have something to say it." His control snapped. In 2 swift strides, he closed the distance between them, his hands coming up to frame her face. Lily's breath hitched, but she didn't back away. She never backed away from him. "You drive me crazy," he growled, his thumb tracing the line of her cheekbone. "Every time you put yourself in danger, every time you challenge me," his voice roughened, "I can't think straight when it comes to you." Lily's hands came up to grip his wrists, but she didn't pull away. "I'm not going to apologize for who I am." "I don't want you to." His fingers slid into her hair, tilting her face up. "But you need to understand what you do to me." The tension crackled between them, electric and dangerous. Alex could feel her pulse racing beneath his fingers, matching the thundering of his own heart. She was so close he could smell her perfume, mixed with the lingering scent of danger from her mission. "Show me," Lily whispered, her eyes darkening with challenge and desire. Something inside Alex broke. He pulled her against him, one hand tangling in her hair, while the other wrapped around her waist. Their lips met in a crushing kiss, years of tension exploding in a single moment. Lily gasped against his mouth, her fingers digging into his shoulders. The kiss was everything they'd been holding back, fierce, possessive, desperate. Alex backed her up against his desk, lifting her easily to sit on its edge. Papers scattered to the floor, but neither of them cared. His hands roamed her sides, memorizing every curve through her clothes while her fingers worked at his tie. "You're mine," he growled against her throat, nipping at the sensitive skin. "Do you understand? Mine to protect, mine to possess." Lily arched into him, her head falling back. "I don't belong to anyone." He pulled back just enough to look into her eyes, his gaze intense. "You belong with me. There's a difference." Her breath caught at the raw honesty in his voice. For a moment, the fierce mask she always wore slipped, revealing the vulnerability beneath. Her hands came up to cup his face, thumbs tracing his cheekbones with unexpected tenderness. The gesture struck something deep in Alex's chest. This wasn't just desire anymore. This was dangerous. This was everything he'd sworn to avoid, everything that could destroy them both. The realization hit him like ice water. He stepped back abruptly, his hands falling to his sides. Lily sat frozen on the desk, her lips swollen from his kisses, her eyes wide with confusion and hurt. "Alex?" He turned away, unable to look at her. His shoulders were rigid with tension as he fought for control. "This can't happen." "Why not?" Her voice was quiet but steady. "Because you're afraid?" "Because I can't protect you if I'm compromised." He ran a hand through his hair, his voice rough. "And this? You compromise everything." Silence fell between them, heavy with unspoken words. When he finally turned back, Lily was sliding off the desk, straightening her clothes with trembling hands. Her face had gone blank, the mask sliding back into place. "You're right," she said coldly. "This was a mistake. We both have more important things to focus on." Before he could respond, she was moving past him toward the door. Her heels clicked against the hardwood floor, each step widening the gulf between them. Alex stood rooted to the spot, every muscle screaming at him to stop her, to pull her back into his arms. But he didn't move. He watched her leave, taking with her the warmth he'd never allowed himself to feel before. The door closed behind her with a quiet click that echoed like a gunshot in the silent office. Alex's fingers tightened around the manila folder until the edges crumpled. The surveillance photos spread across his desk told a story he didn't want to believe. Meeting after meeting, his enemies gathering under one banner. Lily's mother orchestrating it all. His jaw clenched as he studied each image. The timing was too perfect. Lily's appearance at the restaurant, the poisoned meal, her convenient rescue, all of it orchestrated. A chess game where he'd been moved like a pawn, believing himself the king. "Boss," Victor, his head of security, cleared his throat. "There's more." Alex's dark eyes flickered up, cold as winter frost. "Show me." Victor pulled out another set of photos. These showed Lily's mother meeting with his biggest rivals 2 weeks before Lily had saved him. The timeline was damning. Each piece clicked into place with brutal clarity. How Lily always seemed to know exactly where the threats would come from, how she'd positioned herself perfectly to gain his trust. "Get out," Alex ordered, his voice deadly quiet. Victor didn't hesitate, closing the door behind him with a soft click. Alex stood, moving to the window that overlooked the city. His city. The empire he'd built through blood and iron will. Had he really let a slip of a girl compromise everything? His reflection stared back at him, hard and unforgiving. The door opened without a knock. Only one person dared to enter his office that way. "Alex?" Lily's voice carried its usual confidence. "I have news about—" "Sit down." The words came out like ice shards. She paused, studying his rigid posture. "What's wrong?" He turned slowly, his expression murderous. "I said, sit down." Lily moved to the chair across from his desk, her movements careful now. She'd learned to read his moods, but he'd never directed this level of cold fury at her before. Alex picked up one of the photos and tossed it onto the desk between them. "Explain." She picked up the image, her face paling slightly as she recognized her mother meeting with his enemies. "Where did you get this?" "That's not an explanation." He planted his hands on the desk, leaning forward. "Your mother orchestrated everything. The poison, your timely rescue. It was all a setup to get you close to me." "No!" Lily stood up, her eyes flashing. "You're wrong. I had nothing to do with—" "Don't lie to me!" His fist slammed onto the desk, making everything rattle. "The timeline fits perfectly. She positioned you to gain my trust, to learn my weaknesses. And I let you in." "Alex, listen to me." Lily's voice trembled slightly, but she held her ground. "Yes, my mother is plotting against you. Yes, she wanted me to spy on you. But I refused. Everything I've done has been to protect you from her." He laughed, the sound harsh and bitter. "Protect me? By feeding me exactly what information you wanted me to know? By manipulating every situation to your advantage?" "That's not fair." She took a step toward him, but he held up a warning hand. "I've been trying to stop her without getting either of us killed. If you just let me explain." "I trusted you." The words came out like poison. "Do you know how many people I've trusted in my life, Lily? I can count them on one hand. And now I find out it was all a game." "It wasn't a game." Tears shone in her eyes now, but she blinked them back furiously. "Everything between us was real. Every warning, every moment was carefully calculated to make me trust you." He moved around the desk, towering over her. "Tell me, Was it your mother's idea to seduce me too? To make sure I was completely under your spell? The crack of her palm against his cheek echoed in the office. Alex's head snapped to the side, more from surprise than force. When he looked back at her, Lily was trembling with rage. "How dare you?" she whispered. "I have fought against my mother every step of the way. I have risked my life to keep you alive. Yes, she tried to use me against you, but I chose you. I chose to warn you, to protect you, to—" She cut herself off, taking a shaky breath. Alex stared at her, wanting desperately to believe her, but unable to silence the voice of suspicion that had kept him alive all these years. The trust between them, so carefully built over their time together, felt like glass cracking under pressure. "Get out," he said finally, his voice hollow. "I want you gone by morning." "Alex." "Get out." Lily stood her ground for a moment longer, her eyes searching his face for any sign of the connection they'd shared. Finding none, she turned and walked to the door, her steps measured and controlled, despite the tension radiating from her body. At the threshold, she paused. "Everything I did for you. Someday you'll understand that." Then she was gone, leaving Alex alone with his fury and his doubt. Lily stood at the window of her room in Alex's mansion, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. Her phone buzzed again, another message from her mother. She didn't need to read it to know what it said. The demands had been growing more insistent lately. The door opened behind her. Alex's heavy footsteps crossed the threshold, but she didn't turn around. "You're still here." His voice was rough, quieter than before. "Where else would I go?" She pressed her forehead against the cool glass. "My mother wants me to betray you. You want me gone. I seem to be running out of options." Alex moved closer, his reflection appearing beside hers in the window. "Why did you really save me that day?" "Because it was the right thing to do." She finally turned to face him. "Because watching my mother destroy someone else wasn't something I could live with." His jaw tightened. "And now?" "Now?" Lily let out a bitter laugh. "Now I'm in too deep. I care too much about what happens to you. To us." The word hung between them, heavy with meaning. Alex's expression darkened, but his eyes held something besides anger now. "There is no us, Lily. There can't be." "Then why are you here?" She stepped closer, challenging him. "Why not just throw me out like you threatened?" He grabbed her arm, his grip firm but not painful. "Because I need to know the truth. All of it." "I've told you the truth. My mother wanted me to spy on you, to help her take everything you've built. But I couldn't do it." Lily's voice cracked. "I watched you, learned about you, and saw someone worth protecting instead of destroying." Alex's other hand came up to her face, fingers tracing her cheekbone with surprising gentleness. "You're playing a dangerous game." "I stopped playing games weeks ago." She leaned into his touch, despite herself. "Every time I warned you about a threat, every piece of information I gave you, it was all real. I've been trying to keep you alive while preventing an all-out war with my mother." "And what happens when she realizes you've chosen sides?" Lily's heart skipped. "Have I?" Alex's grip tightened. "Haven't you? You need to decide, Lily. Right now. Your mother or me. There's no middle ground anymore." The weight of the decision pressed down on her. Her mother, for all her faults, was family, the only family she had left. But Alex... "She'll never stop," Lily whispered. "Even if I go back to her, she'll keep trying to destroy you. And I can't," she swallowed hard. "I can't watch that happen." "Then choose." His voice was low, demanding. "Right here, right now. Where do your loyalties lie?" Lily looked up into his eyes, seeing the man who'd become more than just a target or an ally. The man who'd shown her both his darkness and his carefully hidden light. "With you," she said softly. "God help me, but I choose you." The tension in Alex's frame shifted, something possessive and fierce replacing the anger. His hand slid to the back of her neck, holding her in place as he searched her face for any sign of deception. "There's no going back from this," he warned. "If you're with me, you're mine. Completely." "I know." And she did. This choice would change everything. Her relationship with her mother, her place in the world, her future. But looking at Alex, she knew it was the only choice she could make. His grip tightened, a reminder of the power he wielded, the danger that came with choosing him. But Lily didn't flinch. She'd made her decision, and she would live with the consequences. The weight of betraying her mother settled heavy in her chest, but the relief of finally choosing a side, of choosing Alex, was undeniable. She was his now, for better or worse, and there was no turning back. The mansion buzzed with activity as Alex's men prepared for war. Maps covered the long mahogany table in his study, marked with red circles indicating targets. Lily stood beside Alex, her finger tracing the route she'd memorized during her time in her mother's organization. "The weapons cache is here," she said, tapping a warehouse location. "Light security, but they're well trained. The guard rotation changes at midnight." Alex's presence loomed behind her, his chest nearly touching her back as he studied the map. "And the security codes?" "Changed weekly, but I know this week's sequence." She scribbled the numbers on a notepad, her handwriting steady despite the weight of what she was doing. Every piece of information she provided was another nail in her mother's coffin. Alex's hand settled on her shoulder, heavy and warm. "You're sure about this?" "I made my choice." She turned to face him, chin lifted. "I won't back down now." His eyes darkened with approval. "Good." He addressed his captains, who stood around the table. "Move out in 30 minutes. Hit all targets simultaneously. No survivors." The men nodded and filed out, leaving Lily alone with Alex. The tension in the room thickened. "Your mother will know it was you," he said, his voice low. "She already knows." Lily's phone had been silent for hours, a silence more threatening than any message. "There's no going back now." Alex moved closer, backing her against the table. "No, there isn't." The first explosions rocked the city an hour later. From Alex's office window, they watched as flames lit up the night sky. His men executed the plan perfectly, striking each location with precision. The warehouse burned, along with 3 other strategic points in her mother's territory. Lily's hands gripped the windowsill, her knuckles white. Each blast represented another bridge burned, another tie severed. Alex stood behind her, his hands on either side of hers, caging her in. "Having second thoughts?" His breath brushed her ear. "No." She leaned back slightly, feeling the solid wall of his chest. "Just accepting reality." Reports started coming in through Alex's secure phone line. Success after success. Her mother's empire was crumbling, years of careful building reduced to ash in a single night. The intel Lily had provided proved devastatingly accurate. "Your mother's men are retreating to their secondary locations," one of Alex's captains reported. "Should we pursue?" "No," Alex replied, his eyes on Lily. "Let them run. They'll lead us straight to her." Lily closed her eyes, remembering Sunday dinners and bedtime stories. Her mother hadn't always been this way. Or maybe she had, and Lily had been too young to see it. Either way, that life was over now. "Boss," another voice crackled through the phone. "We found their ledgers. Everything the girl said checks out. The whole operation's exposed." Alex's hand slid to Lily's waist, possessive and firm. "Good work. Secure the evidence and pull back. We'll move on the main compound tomorrow." The night grew quieter as the fires died down. Emergency vehicles wailed in the distance, but here in Alex's office, time seemed to stop. He turned her around slowly, his grip unyielding. "You did well tonight," he said, studying her face. "But this is just the beginning." "I know." She met his gaze steadily. "I'm ready." His hand slid up her back, pulling her closer until their bodies pressed together. The heat of him seeped through her clothes, making her breath catch. His other hand cupped her face, thumb brushing her lower lip. "You're mine now," he declared, his voice low and dangerous. The words sent a shiver down her spine, not from fear, but from the rightness of it. She tilted her head back, defiance mixes with surrender in her eyes. "Then prove it." The scent of smoke lingered in the air, a reminder of the night's destruction. Lily stood at the window of Alex's study, watching the last emergency vehicles wind their way through the streets below. Her reflection in the glass looked different somehow, harder, older. She touched the cool surface, tracing the outline of distant fires still burning against the skyline. Behind her, Alex poured 2 glasses of whiskey, the amber liquid catching the low lamplight. The clink of crystal against crystal seemed loud in the quiet room. He approached her, his footsteps silent on the thick carpet, and offered her one of the glasses. "You should rest," he said, his voice unusually gentle. Lily accepted the drink, but didn't move from her spot. "I can't. Not yet." She took a sip, welcoming the burn. "Every time I close my eyes, I see those buildings burning." Alex moved to stand beside her, his shoulder barely brushing hers. "Second thoughts?" "No," she shook her head. "Just processing. Everything's different now." The silence stretched between them, comfortable, yet charged with unspoken words. In the distance, sirens wailed, another fire truck racing to contain the chaos they'd unleashed. Alex's men had been thorough, methodical in their destruction. Her mother's empire was in ruins, just as they'd planned. "Come," Alex said suddenly, taking her. "Elbow." He guided her to the leather couch near his desk, his touch firm but careful. "You're exhausted." Lily didn't resist. Her body felt heavy, drained from the night's events. She sank into the soft leather, curling her legs beneath her. Alex sat beside her, close enough that she could feel his warmth. "The reports are still coming in," he said, checking his phone. 3 of your mother's lieutenants have already reached out, offering to switch sides." "Rats leaving a sinking ship," Lily murmured. She stared into her glass, watching the whiskey swirl. "They never were loyal to her. Not really." Alex's hand found her shoulder, squeezing gently. The gesture surprised her. He wasn't one for casual touch or comfort. "Loyalty is rare in our world." "Is that why you kept me close?" She turned to look at him, searching his face. "To ensure my loyalty?" His expression softened slightly, almost imperceptibly. At first. And now? Instead of answering, he reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. His fingers lingered against her cheek, rough and warm. Lily's breath caught in her throat. The moment stretched between them, delicate as spun glass. Outside, the city continued to burn, but in here, time seemed to slow. Alex's thumb traced her jawline, a touch so gentle it seemed at odds with everything she knew about him. "You should have been afraid of me," he said finally, his voice low. "From the beginning. Most people are." "I've never been very good at doing what I should," she replied, managing a small smile. He huffed out what might have been a laugh, but his eyes remained intense, focused entirely on her. The hand on her face slid to her neck, his palm resting against her pulse point. Lily leaned into his touch, exhaustion and emotion making her bold. Her head came to rest against his shoulder, and after a moment, his arm wrapped around her. They sat like that, watching the play of shadows on the wall as the night deepened around them. The danger wasn't gone, they both knew that. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new battles to fight. Her mother was still out there, wounded but not defeated. But for now, in this quiet moment, they allowed themselves this small piece of peace. The morning sun cast long shadows across Alex's study as he reviewed the latest intelligence reports. His coffee had gone cold, forgotten amid the mounting pile of documents that detailed surveillance, intercepted communications, and whispered rumors from the streets. A sharp knock interrupted his concentration. Victor, his most trusted lieutenant, entered without waiting for a response. The man's face was grim, his usual stoic expression replaced with barely concealed concern. "Boss," Victor said, his voice tight. "We've got confirmation. Elena Ivankov is mobilizing." Alex's jaw clenched. Lily's mother had been quiet since their last strike, leading some to believe she'd finally backed down. He should have known better. "Details. She's calling in favors from every corner of the underground. Western Territory families, the Kazakhs, even some of the Chinese triads." Victor placed a fresh folder on Alex's desk. "Our sources say she's promising them pieces of your territory once you're gone." Alex's fingers drummed against his desk, a rare display of agitation. "How much time?" "Days, maybe less." Victor shifted uncomfortably. "There's more. She's specifically targeting your legitimate businesses first. The shipping companies, the tech firms, everything you've built to go clean." The words hit Alex like a physical blow. For years, he'd been carefully transitioning portions of his empire into legitimate enterprises. It wasn't just about the money. It was about building something that could last, something he could potentially pass down without the constant shadow of violence. "Where's Lily?" he asked, already reaching for his phone. "In the garden. Should I?" "No." Alex stood, straightening his jacket. "I'll tell her myself." The walk to the garden gave him time to organize his thoughts. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, he could see Lily sitting on one of the stone benches, a book open in her lap. The sight of her, peaceful and unaware, made his chest tight with an unfamiliar emotion. She looked up as he approached, her expression immediately shifting as she read his body language. "What's wrong?" "Your mother," he said simply, sitting beside her. "She's making her move." Lily's face paled slightly, but her voice remained steady. "How bad?" "She's going after everything." Alex watched her carefully as he continued. "Not just the territory or the men. She's targeting the legitimate businesses, the foundations we've built for the future." "She wants to salt the earth," Lily whispered, closing her book. "Make sure there's nothing left to rebuild from." Alex nodded, noting how her hands trembled slightly despite her calm demeanor. She's bringing in outside forces. Your mother would rather see everything burn than let us succeed. Lily stood abruptly, pacing the garden path. Her movements were sharp, controlled, but Alex could see the storm brewing behind her eyes. I should have known she wouldn't stop. Even after everything, even after we destroyed half her empire. She turned to face him. What are you going to do? The question hung heavy in the air between them. Alex rose slowly, his decision already made but weighing heavily on his conscience. Not for Elena's sake, but for Lily's. You know what has to be done, he said quietly. Lily's breath caught. You're going to kill her. It wasn't a question, but Alex answered anyway. Yes. He watched as various emotions played across her face, grief, resignation, and finally, a terrible understanding. She stepped closer to him, her eyes never leaving his. She won't stop, Lily said, her voice barely above a whisper. Not until one of you is dead. Alex reached out, cupping her face in his hands. I won't ask you to choose. You don't have to. She leaned into his touch, her eyes closing briefly. I made my choice the day I warned you about the poison. Everything since then has just been delaying the inevitable. The garden fell silent, except for the distant sound of traffic and the soft rustle of leaves in the breeze. Alex pulled Lily closer, feeling the slight tremor in her body as she pressed against him. He knew the cost of what he was about to do, knew that no matter how necessary it was, it would leave another scar on Lily's heart. But he would bear that burden. He would carry the weight of this decision, add it to the countless others that had shaped him into the man he was. Because the alternative? Losing everything they'd built, losing her, was unthinkable. The night air hung thick with anticipation as Alex's convoy of black SUVs rolled silently through the industrial district. Beside him in the back seat, Lily sat perfectly still, her face a mask of determination that couldn't quite hide the storm in her eyes. You don't have to be here, Alex said quietly, his hand finding hers in the darkness. Yes, I do. Her fingers tightened around his. She's my mother. I need to see this through. Through the tinted windows, abandoned warehouses loomed like ancient ruins. Yelena Ivankov had chosen her final stand well, a maze of concrete and steel with countless places to hide her forces. But Alex had something she didn't expect. Intimate knowledge of her tactics, courtesy of the daughter she'd tried to use as a pawn. The convoy stopped 2 blocks from the target. Alex's men moved with practiced precision, taking up positions around the perimeter. Victor appeared at Alex's window, face grim. Perimeter teams are in position. We've confirmed Elena's inside with at least 30 men. Alex nodded, checking his weapon. Any sign they know we're coming? No movement yet. But, Victor hesitated, glancing at Lily. We intercepted some radio chatter. She's expecting us. Of course she was. Yelena Ivankov hadn't survived this long by being careless. She'd known this confrontation was inevitable from the moment Lily chose Alex's side. Remember, Alex addressed his team, Yelena Ivankov dies tonight. Anyone who stands with her shares her fate. No exceptions. The men nodded, their faces hard with understanding. This wasn't just about territory anymore. This was about ending a threat that would never stop coming for them. They moved through the shadows like ghosts, Alex's elite team taking point while others secured their retreat route. Lily kept pace easily, her movements fluid and silent. She'd changed so much from the little girl who'd warned him about poison in his food. Yet her core remained the same. Steel, wrapped in silk, dangerous in her own quiet way. The first explosion rocked the ground beneath their feet. "Contact front!" someone shouted, and then the night erupted in gunfire. Elena's men had been waiting, hidden in the upper levels of the surrounding buildings. Alex grabbed Lily, pulling her behind a concrete barrier as bullets sparked off the metal around them. His men returned fire, the sound deafening in the confined space. "She's trying to box us in," Lily said, her voice steady despite the chaos. "There will be more men coming from the east side." Alex keyed his radio. "Victor, east side." "Already moving," came the response, followed by the distinctive sound of his second-in-command's team engaging the flanking force. They pushed forward methodically, clearing each section of the warehouse complex. Elena's men fought hard, but Alex's team was better trained, better equipped, and driven by a cold determination that made them unstoppable. The main warehouse loomed before them, its massive doors sealed shut. Inside, Elena waited with her remaining forces. "She'll have the high ground," Lily warned, studying the building's layout. "There's a catwalk that runs the length of the interior. She'll use it to direct her men." Alex nodded, already formulating a plan. "Victor, take your team around back. Draw their attention. We'll breach from the side entrance." The next few minutes passed in a blur of movement and violence. Victor's team created a diversion at the rear of the warehouse, and Alex's group slipped in through a maintenance door. The interior was dimly lit, filled with shipping containers that created a deadly maze. Gunfire erupted from above. Lily had been right about the catwalk. Alex caught glimpses of movement in the shadows, Elena's men trying to maintain their defensive positions. But they were being squeezed from two directions now, and panic began to set in. Through the chaos, Alex heard Elena's voice, sharp and commanding. "Kill them all! Don't let them reach me!" Lily's breath caught at the sound of her mother's voice, but her hands remained steady on her weapon. They pressed forward, Elena's men falling before them one by one, until finally they reached the metal stairs leading to the catwalk. Elena stood at the center of it, her silhouette backlit by emergency lights, looking every bit the queen of her crumbling empire. Her eyes found Lily's, and for a moment, mother and daughter stared at each other across the gulf of betrayal and blood that separated them. "So," Elena said, her voice carrying across the warehouse, "this is how it ends." Blood dripped from Alex's knuckles as he stared at the carnage around them. The warehouse had become a graveyard, the aftermath of their final battle with Elena still fresh. The metallic scent of blood hung thick in the air, mixing with cordite and smoke. Emergency lights cast long shadows across the concrete floor, painting everything in shades of red and black. Lily stood by the catwalk railing, her fingers white-knuckled against the metal. Her mother's body had already been removed, but her eyes remained fixed on the spot where Elena had fallen. She hadn't spoken since the gunfire stopped, since she'd watched her mother's empire crumble around them. Alex approached her slowly, his footsteps echoing in the eerie silence. His men were outside, securing the perimeter and dealing with the aftermath, leaving them alone in this temple of violence they'd created together. "Lily," he said softly, his voice carrying none of its usual edge. When she didn't respond, he moved closer, close enough to see the slight tremor in her shoulders. "I keep thinking about the day she taught me to shoot," Lily whispered, her voice hollow. "She said it was to protect myself, but really, she was just making sure I could protect her empire." She turned to face him, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "Everything was always about the empire." Alex reached for her, his bloodied hand hovering near her cheek before dropping away. "You don't have to stay," he said, the words tasting like ash in his mouth. "You're free now. Free of her. Free of all of this." He gestured to the warehouse, to the evidence of their violent world. "Free of me." Lily's laugh was bitter, breaking the heavy silence. "Free? There's no such thing in our world, Alex. You know that better than anyone." He moved closer, his presence both threatening and protective. "Then let me give you something else. Everything I have, the territory, the power, the empire. It's yours if you want it. We could rule together, make something better than what they left us." "You'd give me that much power?" She turned to face him fully now, searching his face. "After everything that's happened?" "I'd give you everything," he said simply, the words heavy with meaning. "My empire, my life, all of it." The admission hung between them, dangerous and beautiful. Lily stepped closer, close enough that Alex could feel the heat of her body, smell the gunpowder in her hair. Her hand came up to rest against his chest, feeling his heartbeat through his shirt. "And what about your heart?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Would you give me that too?" Alex's breath caught. In all his years of violence and power, nothing had ever terrified him more than this moment, this question. His hand came up to cover hers, pressing it harder against his chest. "It's already yours," he admitted roughly. "Has been since you saved my life that first night." Lily's eyes filled with tears, but these were different from before. She looked up at him, seeing past the blood and violence to the man beneath, the man who'd protected her, trusted her, loved her despite everything. "My mother was wrong about so many things," she said softly. "But she was right about one thing. Power is everything in this world." Her free hand came up to cup his face. "And you, Alex Volkov, are the most powerful man I've ever known. Not because of your empire or your men, but because you had the power to make me love you, even when I should have hated you." The tension in Alex's body eased slightly, but his eyes remained guarded. "Are you sure? This life, my life, it's not an easy one." "I don't want easy," Lily replied. She pressed closer, her body fitting against his like it was made to be there. "I want you, your world, your empire, your heart, all of it." Her words were a balm to the savage beast inside him, the part that had been waiting for her to run since the moment they met. She lifted herself on her toes, bringing her lips closer to his, and in that moment, everything else fell away. The blood, the violence, the weight of their choices. The morning sun crept through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Alex's penthouse, painting the room in shades of gold. Lily stood by the window, her fingers trailing against the cool glass as she watched the city below come to life. The events of the past few days had changed everything. Yet, somehow, the world kept turning. Alex's reflection appeared behind her in the glass. He moved with that predatory grace she'd come to know so well, his presence filling the space around her. His hands settled on her shoulders, warm and steady. "Having second thoughts?" he asked, his voice still rough from sleep. Lily leaned back against his chest, letting his strength support her. "No," she said firmly. "Just thinking about what comes next." His grip tightened slightly. "We rebuild. Make it stronger than before." She turned in his arms, studying his face. The hard edges were still there, The sharp jaw, the calculating eyes. But there was something else now, something softer when he looked at her. "Your men," she started. "Will they accept me?" Alex's laugh was dark. "They don't have a choice." "That's not what I meant." Lily pulled away slightly, moving to his desk where papers were scattered across the surface. "I want to earn their respect, not just have it forced on them." Alex watched her, fascination clear in his eyes as she began sorting through the documents. She'd always been like this, strategic, methodical. It was one of the things that had drawn him to her in the first place. "What do you have in mind?" Lily held up a file. "These shipping routes, they're vulnerable. Your father's old system is outdated. We need to modernize, adapt." She spread out a map, her fingers tracing potential new paths. "If we restructure here and here, we can increase efficiency by 30%. Alex moved behind her, his chest pressing against her back as he looked over her shoulder. His breath was warm against her neck as he studied her proposed changes. "You've been planning this for a while," he observed. "Since the day I met you," she admitted. "I knew things would change. I wanted to be ready." His arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her closer. "You never stop surprising me, Lily." She turned her head, meeting his gaze. "Good. You need someone to keep you on your toes." Their lips met in a kiss that started gentle but quickly turned heated. Alex spun her around, lifting her onto the desk, papers scattering to the floor. His hands gripped her hips possessively. "The Empire can wait," he growled against her mouth. Lily pulled back, pressing a hand to his chest. "No," she said firmly. "Business first. That's how we make this work." Alex's eyes darkened, but there was pride mixed with the frustration. He stepped back, straightening his suit jacket. "Show me what else you've planned." For the next hour, they pored over documents together. Lily outlined her ideas for restructuring, modernizing, and strengthening their hold on the city. Alex added his own insights, their minds working in perfect sync. "We'll need to meet with the captains," Alex said finally, running a hand through his hair. "Show them we're united in this." Lily nodded, already reaching for her phone. "I'll arrange it for this afternoon. The sooner we establish the new order, the better." Alex caught her wrist, his thumb brushing over her pulse point. "You're remarkable," he said softly. "Everything I never knew I needed." A small smile played at her lips. "Careful, Volkov. Your soft side is showing." He pulled her closer, his expression turning serious. "Only for you," he murmured. "Only ever for you." Moving to his leather office chair, Alex sat down, pulling Lily into his lap. Their hands intertwined naturally, fingers lacing together as they looked out over their city. The sunlight caught on the buildings, making them gleam like jewels in a crown. Their crown now. The empire they would build together would be different from what came before. Stronger, smarter, built on a foundation of not just power, but trust. They sat there in comfortable silence, both knowing that, while the path ahead would be dangerous, they would walk it together. Lily sat at the head of the conference table beside Alex, her back straight and her gaze steady as his captains filed into the room. These were hardened men, killers who had earned their positions through blood and loyalty. Yet none dared question her presence at Alex's right hand. The morning sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse office, casting long shadows across the polished mahogany. Alex's hand rested casually on the table, but Lily could see the tension in his shoulders. This was their first meeting since taking control, since eliminating her mother and consolidating their power.
"Gentlemen," Alex's voice cut through the murmurs, commanding immediate silence. "You've all met Lily. From now on, her word carries the same weight as mine." A few of the men shifted uncomfortably in their chairs. Lily could read their thoughts as clearly as if they'd spoken them aloud. She was young, female, and, in their eyes, an outsider. She'd have to prove herself. "I've reviewed our operations," Lily said, her voice clear and confident. She spread out several folders, pushing them across the table. "Our current structure leaves us vulnerable. We need to adapt." One of the older captains, Victor, scoffed. "With all due respect, Miss Ivankov, these systems have worked for decades." Alex's jaw tightened, but Lily placed a gentle hand on his arm. This was her battle to fight. "And that's precisely the problem, Victor," she replied, opening one of the folders. "Our rivals know our patterns. They can predict our moves. But what they don't expect..." She pulled out a detailed map of the city, marked with new routes and strategic points. "Is this?" For the next hour, Lily outlined her plans for restructuring their operations. She'd spent countless nights studying every aspect of Alex's empire, finding ways to strengthen their hold while minimizing risk. As she spoke, she could see the skepticism in their eyes slowly giving way to grudging respect. Alex watched her with barely concealed pride. She commanded the room with a quiet authority that complemented his more forceful presence. Where he ruled through fear and power, she wielded intelligence and strategy like precise weapons. "These changes will take time," one of the younger captains noted, studying the proposals. "Yes," Lily agreed, "but they're necessary. Unless anyone has a better suggestion?" Her challenge hung in the air, met with silence. After the meeting, as the captains filed out, several nodded respectfully in her direction. It wasn't acceptance yet, but it was a start. Once they were alone, Alex pulled her into his arms, his grip possessive and tight. "You were magnificent," he murmured against her hair. Lily relaxed into his embrace, allowing herself this moment of vulnerability. "They still don't trust me completely." "They will." Alex's voice held absolute certainty. "They'll see what I see." He turned her to face him, his dark eyes intense as they traced her features. His hand came up to cup her cheek, thumb brushing across her lower lip. The tenderness of the gesture contrasted sharply with the dangerous power she knew he wielded. "Everything I've built," he said softly, "everything I am, it's yours now, too." Lily's heart raced at the declaration. This was Alex Volkov, the man who trusted no one, offering her not just his empire, but himself. "You're mine, forever," he growled, pulling her closer until there was no space between them. His words were both a promise and a warning, an unbreakable vow. Lily smiled, her fingers curling into the fabric of his suit. "Forever," she agreed, knowing she belonged to him completely, just as he belonged to her. The early morning light filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Alex's penthouse office, casting a golden glow across the sprawling maps and documents scattered across his desk. Lily stood beside him, her finger tracing potential expansion routes through their territory. "The docks," she said, tapping a spot on the map. "If we secure this area, we control all shipping channels in and out of the city." Alex leaned closer, his shoulder brushing against hers. The familiar warmth of his presence sent a subtle shiver down her spine. "The union leaders there are loyal to the Petrov family." "For now." Lily's lips curved into a knowing smile. "But loyalty can be bought or broken." He turned to study her face, pride gleaming in his dark eyes. The ruthless calculation in her voice, so at odds with her delicate features,
never failed to stir something primal within him. You've already made contact. 3 days ago. She pulled out a folder, spreading photographs across the desk. The union president has a gambling problem. His wife doesn't know he's mortgaged their house twice. He'll be receptive to an alternative arrangement. Alex's hand settled on her waist, pulling her closer. Clever girl. His voice was low, dangerous. And if he refuses? Then we expose his debts to his wife, who happens to be the daughter of his second-in-command. The resulting chaos will fracture their leadership, making it easier to install someone more cooperative. He smiled, a predator's smile that would have terrified anyone else. But Lily had long since learned to read the affection beneath his savage exterior. You've thought of everything. I learned from the best. She turned in his embrace, meeting his intense gaze. This is just the beginning, Alex. With the docks under our control, we can expand our reach beyond the city. His grip tightened possessively. Our reach. The word sent a thrill through her. Yes, theirs. She'd earned her place beside him, not just as his partner in life, but as his equal in power. The girl who had once warned him about poison had become the woman who helped him build an empire. A knock at the door interrupted them. Victor, now their most loyal captain, entered with a tablet in hand. The first reports from the waterfront are in. Lily stepped smoothly out of Alex's embrace, though his hand remained at the small of her back. They'd learned to balance intimacy with authority, never letting their relationship undermine their command. Show us, Alex ordered. Victor pulled up a series of surveillance photos. The Petrov family's men have increased their patrols. They know something's coming. Let them worry, Lily said, studying the images. Fear makes people sloppy. We'll use that. Alex watched her analyze the situation, his dark eyes glinting with pride and possession. She had transformed from a mere survivor into a true queen of their underworld. Her intelligence and cunning matched his strength and brutality perfectly. Double the surveillance, she instructed Victor. I want to know every move they make, every weakness we can exploit. Yes, ma'am. Victor's immediate compliance showed how far they'd come. The captains no longer questioned her authority. They'd learned, some painfully, that her word carried the same weight as Alex's. After Victor left, Alex pulled Lily back against his chest. You were born for this, he murmured against her ear. She leaned into him, allowing herself this moment of vulnerability. We were born for this. Together. He turned her to face him, his expression intense. Together, he agreed, his voice rough with emotion. Everything we build, everything we conquer, it's ours. Lily reached up to touch his face, tracing the sharp line of his jaw. This dangerous man, this ruthless king of their criminal empire, was hers completely, just as she was his. They turned to the window, looking out over their city. Below them, the streets pulsed with life, unaware of the power shift happening in the shadows. Alex and Lily stood together at the pinnacle of their empire, their shared strength making them truly unstoppable. Alex stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office, watching the city lights flicker to life as dusk settled. Behind him, the steady click of Lily's heels against marble announced her arrival. He didn't turn, but his reflection smiled as she appeared beside him. The Italians have agreed to our terms, she said, sliding a tablet onto his desk. They'll route their shipments through our ports exclusively. And the commission? 30%, as demanded. Lily's smile held a touch of satisfaction.
They tried to negotiate down to 20, but I reminded them how unfortunate it would be if Customs suddenly took special interest in their containers. Alex turned then, studying her with pride. Gone was the scrappy girl who had warned him about poison. In her place stood a woman who commanded respect with just a look. Her tailored black suit emphasized her authority, while diamond studs, his gift, sparkled at her ears. "You've become quite the negotiator," he murmured, reaching out to trace her jaw with his thumb. "I learned from watching you," she leaned into his touch. "Though I prefer my methods to involve less bloodshed." "More profitable that way," he agreed. "Speaking of profit, how are the new accounts performing?" Lily moved to his desk, pulling up financial reports with practiced ease. "Up 12% since last quarter. The legitimate businesses are thriving, which makes the other operations easier to obscure." Their empire had grown beyond traditional Mafia ventures. Under Lily's guidance, they'd diversified into real estate, tech startups, and shipping companies. The legitimate facade made their other activities nearly impossible to trace. A knock interrupted them. Their head of security entered, tablet in hand. "Mr. Volkov, the weekly security briefing." Alex nodded, but Lily spoke first. "Any concerns about the South Side territory?" "None, ma'am. The new patrol schedule you implemented has cut response time by half. No one's stupid enough to challenge us there anymore." "Good." She exchanged a look with Alex. "What about our friend in City Hall?" "Still playing ball. The building permits for the waterfront development will be approved by Friday." After the briefing, they retreated to their private quarters. Here, away from prying eyes, they could shed their carefully maintained facades. Lily kicked off her heels while Alex loosened his tie. "You were right about the commissioner," he said, pouring them each a glass of wine. "His
daughter's art gallery is proving to be an excellent investment." Lily accepted the glass with a knowing smile. Amazing how cooperative people become when their dreams are funded. Much cleaner than blackmail. "Though less entertaining," Alex teased, pulling her close. They moved to the balcony, where the city spread before them like a glittering carpet. This was their kingdom, built on blood and cunning, maintained through a perfect balance of force and finesse. "Remember when you first brought me here?" Lily asked, leaning back against his chest. "You were so small, yet completely unafraid." His arms tightened around her. "Even then, I knew you'd be dangerous." "I was right about the poison, wasn't I?" "You've been right about many things since then." He pressed a kiss to her temple, including the casino expansion. Their latest venture had doubled their legitimate income while providing excellent cover for less legal activities. It was Lily's project from start to finish, proving once again her value went far beyond being merely his partner. Below them, cars crawled through evening traffic. Somewhere in the city, their soldiers kept watch, their businesses ran smoothly, and their enemies plotted futilely. But here, in their private sanctuary, none of that mattered. Lily turned in his arms, her expression softening. "I have the final numbers from the charity gala. We raised enough to fund the children's ward for 3 years." It was their other face, the philanthropic power couple, darlings of high society. The contrast amused them both, how they could sign death warrants in the morning and attend charity functions in the evening. "You've made quite a name for yourself among the society ladies," Alex observed. "They're useful connections. Amazing what secrets people share over champagne and canapés." They fell into comfortable silence, sharing the view and the wine. These quiet moments were rare treasures in their world of constant motion and vigilance. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new threats to neutralize, new opportunities to seize. But for now, they simply existed together, king and queen of their carefully crafted realm.
The penthouse suite was their fortress, but tonight it felt more like a sanctuary. Through floor-to-ceiling windows, the city sprawled beneath them, a tapestry of lights and shadows that belonged to them in all but name. Alex stood at the window, his reflection overlaying the cityscape, while Lily worked at her laptop on the leather sofa. "The Martinez family is getting restless again," Lily mentioned, without looking up. Her fingers moved swiftly across the keyboard, each keystroke deliberate and precise. "They're trying to expand into the Port District." Alex turned, his expression darkening. "Let them try. The port authorities are firmly in our pocket." "I've already handled it," Lily said, a small smile playing at her lips. "Their ships won't be getting preferential docking times anymore. Amazing how
Quickly business dries up when you're always last in line. Alex crossed the room, his steps silent on the plush carpet. He stopped behind the sofa, placing his hands on her shoulders. "You've become quite the strategist." "I learned from the best." She leaned back, tilting her head to look up at him. "Though I think you would have preferred a more direct approach." "Sometimes the old ways are best," he agreed, but his tone was amused rather than critical. "But your way leaves less mess to clean up." Lily closed her laptop and stood, stretching like a cat. She wore one of his dress shirts, the white fabric stark against her dark leggings. "Speaking of messes, Victor called earlier. The situation with the corrupt detective has been resolved." "Dead?" "Better." Her eyes sparkled with satisfaction. "Retired. To Florida. His pension should keep him quite comfortable. And quiet." Alex pulled her close, inhaling the familiar scent of her perfume. "You're becoming quite skilled at solving problems without bloodshed." "Violence is easy," she murmured against his chest. "Power is knowing when not to use it." They stood together, watching the city lights flicker like stars. Their empire wasn't built solely on brutality anymore. Under Lily's influence, they'd created something more sustainable, more sophisticated. The other families might mock Alex's apparent softening, but none dared challenge them directly. "The Charity Foundation's annual gala is next week," Lily reminded him. "We need to make an appearance." Alex's hand traced lazy patterns on her back. "More schmoozing with the city's elite?" "The mayor will be there, and the police commissioner." She pulled back slightly to meet his gaze. "It's amazing how many doors open when you're known for philanthropic work rather than just fear." "Is that what we are now? Philanthropists?" There was no mockery in his tone, only curiosity. "We're whatever we need to be." Lily's voice was firm. "Fear keeps people in line, but respect makes them loyal. We're building something that will last beyond us." Alex studied her face, marveling at how she'd transformed from that scrappy girl warning him about poison into this sophisticated strategist. She matched him now, step for step, in their dangerous dance of power and control. "The Vietnamese delegation arrives tomorrow," he said, changing the subject. "They're nervous about expanding their operations here." "They should be," Lily replied. "But by the time I'm done with them, they'll think it was their idea to partner with us." She paused, a wicked glint in her eye. "Though having you there to look menacing won't hurt." Alex laughed, a rare sound that few besides Lily ever heard. "I live to serve." "No," she corrected, reaching up to trace his jaw with her fingers. "You live to rule. We both do." The truth of her words hung between them. They were more than just survivors now, more than a mafia boss and his clever wife. They were architects of a new order, building something that combined the best of both their natures, his strength and her subtlety, his ruthlessness and her cunning. Lily pressed closer, fitting against him like she was made to be there. "We should sleep." Tomorrow will be busy. But neither moved. In their world of constant vigilance and calculated moves, these quiet moments were precious. Their enemies might plot and scheme, but none could touch them here, in this sanctuary they'd built together. The penthouse suite gleamed in the late afternoon sun, floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of their domain. Alex stood behind his massive mahogany desk, his posture relaxed but alert, a predator at rest. Lily sat perched on the edge, her tablet forgotten beside her as they both gazed out at their empire. A year had transformed everything. The skyline itself seemed to bow to their will, with 3 new buildings bearing the Volkov name rising from the concrete jungle. Their influence had grown beyond mere territory and muscle. Now they dealt in information, in favors, in the kind of power that didn't need to announce itself with gunfire. "Remember when you first warned me about that poison?" Alex's voice carried a hint of amusement. "Such a tiny thing you were. But those eyes." He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. Those eyes already held steel in them. Lily leaned into his touch, a smile playing at her lips. "I was terrified you wouldn't believe me, but I couldn't let you die. Even then, something told me you were different." "Different?" His eyebrow arched. "I was a monster." "You still are," she teased, but there was warmth in her voice. "Just my monster now." The sun caught the diamond on her finger, sending prisms dancing across the walls. Their wedding had been a show of force as much as a celebration. Every family in attendance, paying respects not just to Alex Volkov, but to the woman who'd helped him build an empire none dared challenge. "The Chen family sent another proposal this morning," Lily mentioned, her fingers tracing patterns on the desk's smooth surface. "They want exclusive rights to the new shipping routes." Alex's laugh was dark and rich. "After what they tried last month? Bold of them." "They're desperate." Lily picked up her tablet, scrolling through reports. "Their old allies are jumping ship, choosing our protection instead. Soon they'll have nothing left but their pride." "And what does my brilliant wife suggest?" Alex moved closer, his presence enveloping her like a shadow. "Let them stew for another week," she replied, setting the tablet aside. "Then offer them a deal they can't refuse. One that makes them think they're getting mercy, when really they're signing away their autonomy." "Ruthless," he murmured approvingly. "You've learned well." "I had a good teacher." She stood, turning to face him. "Though I think I've taught you a few things too. Like how sometimes the softest touch," she ran her finger down his chest, "can be more effective than the hardest hit." Their empire had evolved with their partnership. Where Alex once ruled through fear alone, now they wielded a complex web of influence. Lily's subtle manipulations complemented his raw power, creating something unprecedented in their world. A criminal empire that operated almost entirely within the bounds of legitimate business. "The mayor called earlier," Lily continued. "He's practically begging for our support in the upcoming election." "And?" Alex's hands settled on her waist, anchoring her to him. "And I told him we'd think about it. Let him sweat a little." Her smile was razor sharp. "By the time I'm done, he'll offer us everything we want and thank us for the privilege." Alex studied her face, the confidence that had replaced her youthful uncertainty, the calculated gleam in her eyes that matched his own. She'd grown into her power like a second skin, no longer the girl playing at survival, but a queen who commanded respect. "We've built something incredible," he acknowledged, his voice low and intense. "Something unbreakable." "We?" Lily arched an eyebrow. "Are you admitting I had something to do with it?" "Everything," he growled, pulling her closer. "You changed everything, made it better, stronger." The sun was setting now,
painting the city in shades of gold and crimson. Below them, their empire hummed with activity, legitimate businesses and shadow operations working in perfect harmony. They'd created a legacy that would endure, built on a foundation of both love and power. Alex pulled her into his arms, his lips brushing her ear as he whispered, "You're mine forever." I hope you like this story. Please share what's your favorite part of the story and where in the world you are watching from. Have a wonderful day.